Welcome back, everyone. I'm Portlandia Jones, and we are on this dry-ish January adventure together. It is the 6th day into January, and how is everyone doing? I know that for me, I'm having a really great week, and I haven't really been tempted all that much. So if you're playing the boozy coin game with me, how many tokens have you put in your jar? I can show you my jar. It's empty, but it's still only the first week. Now, if you have that allowance, you decide for yourself how many drinks you're going to allow per week. For me, I'm going to only allow myself 2 drinks per week. I'll put in a blue chip. You can use whatever kind of token makes sense for you. I happen to have poker chips in my game closet. I'll put a blue poker chip to keep track of the allotted amount that I'm allowed. Now, I haven't actually used my allowance yet this week, so I'm just going to keep that over there. Now, if you have a little bit of an indulgence, but you want to keep accountable to that, we've also got the red chips. I have not used any of those yet either. Those are going to cost me $5, and I'm going to have to add that to my savings account if I use them. But so far, I'm having a pretty good week, so I am good. Now, if you've used your chips, that is totally fine. They are there to be used. There is no shame in using them. But also pay attention to what your cravings are, and if you're not feeling it, drink something else. That's totally fine. All right, so I promised that we were going to try some of these non-alcoholic and de-alcoholized products that are on the market to see which would be suitable alternatives and which we should just leave back on the shelf. In front of me, we have various kinds of wine alternatives or de-alcoholized wine. Now, one of my favorite drinks is wine. I have been drinking wine probably since I was legally able to. I love to pair it with food. I love having a nice juicy steak with a red wine. It's just, those things just pair so well together. Wine is also a very complex beverage and something that's going to be really difficult to replicate without having the alcohol components in it. Alcohol just lends some of the aromatics. It interacts with the air in a certain way. It interacts with the complexities of the wine. So we're going to go through and see what we can find. Now, we've got 2 different kinds of wine alternatives here. On this side over here, these have never had alcohol in them. They are made from a variety of herbs and juices and other flavorings. They're not trying to be wine, so we should level set our expectation there, but they are attempting to be an alternative to wine. So we'll take a look at those first, and then we'll get to this group over here. Now, these 3 are de-alcoholized wine. And what that means is that they have gone through the normal traditional process of fermentation in order to become wine. And then at that point, they've had the alcohol removed through a very scientific process. And from my research, I've only seen a couple of processes that have worked. None of them I would recommend that you try at home, unless you have a centrifuge or a very fancy distilling contraption. All right, are you excited? I know I am. I'm a little nervous too. I'm not sure what I'm going to think of any of these. And just as a reminder, none of these companies have sponsored me. They have no idea that I'm doing this. I am making no money off of this. I am just doing this as an exercise in experimentation to see what's out there and what's good. Now that actually brings me to another point. All of our palates are different. We're each unique individuals, and my palate may not be the same as yours. So what I normally like are beverages that are not overly sweet. When it comes to wine, I do prefer reds, but they're a good whites, not bad either. Usually like the more full-bodied, bold wines, ones that are fruit-forward but not sugary sweet, that might have a little bit of a peppery finish. Syrah is one of my favorites, as well as a Tempranillo and a Sangiovese. Those are my top 3 favorites. So if these are trying to mimic other wines, it's very possible that I just might not like them because it's modeled after a style of wine that I personally don't prefer. So I will do my best to tell you what I'm tasting so that you can then try yourself. Let's start over here with these 3 wines. These are all from the same company called Proxies, And I've selected a few from their listing. It's a pretty varied listing to do the tasting today. Now, there's a lot of data that goes into this. So, as I like to say, this calls for a spreadsheet. So I'm going to kind of look over here at my notes and let you know what I find. This one over here, this is the Crisp and Zesty White, also called the Blanc Slate. And this one says that it should have a zesty citrus, crisp Sauvignon Blanc grape taste with juicy apricot and kiwi, lemongrass, lime leaves, and a subtle habanero burn. Okay, so hopefully I'm not going to need a glass of milk after this. All right, so let's see. First, let's give it the sniff test. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe because they planted it in my mind, but I think I can kind of smell that habanero. It has a very interesting citrusy kind of smell to it. All right, let's see how it tastes. Ooh, that is interesting. What I get on this one is more of a crisp apple. And yeah, I can feel a little bit of the prick of the habanero, but it's very, very slight. This is actually quite good. I would drink this. This does not taste like a white wine at all. It almost has more notes of almost a cider, but a cider that's flat and doesn't have any bubbles in it. So good job, Proxies. This is actually quite good. So you're probably wondering what the cost of all of these are. These wines here, they only come in a box of 6. So you have to buy 6 at a time off of the website. At the end of the day, it kind of puts them about $20 to $25 a piece, which is not bad, but you do have to get 6 at a time. All right, so let's check out this next one. I'm actually going to come back to this. This is actually quite good. And since there's no alcohol in it, you can enjoy as much as you'd like. While I'm thinking about it, you may be wondering, well, what about my waistline? Some people do dry January to try to cut back on calories. Who wants to drink all their calories? I don't mind, but some people don't want to. I do have in my handy dandy spreadsheet the nutritional information for Blanc Slate. So let's see what the damage is. For a 5 fluid ounce serving size, this guy here is going to have 40 calories, 6 grams of carbs, and 6 grams of sugar. If you're watching your calorie intake, your carb intake, your sugar intake, this might be a good option as well. All right, let's try this one. This one's also from Proxies. It's called the Shuru, and this is a Riesling raspberry pear sencha tea, sansho pepper, red shisho, and lime flavor palette. It also is slightly sparkling, and it says also to serve chilled. All right, so bring up my handy dandy glass. Oh, that's got a really floral scent to it. I wonder if that smells kind of like tea. It's got some, yeah, I'm really picking up some floral notes in that. I wonder if that might be the sencha, maybe. I think those are Japanese leaves that are used in sushi, but I'll have to look that up. All right, here we go. Oh, that one's interesting. That one, it's not very carbonated. It's just got a little bit of what you would call a frisson, which actually I like. I actually don't like a lot of bubbles anyway. There is a note in here that is interacting with my taste buds in a weird way. I am one of those freakish people that ginger and cilantro taste like soap. And so there's something in here, maybe it's a ginger that does have some notes of soap, but it's actually not bad. This one I would give another try. I do think that I like the Blanc Slate a little bit better, but this one is actually quite nice as well. That nose is just absolutely, I'm getting so much floral off of this. All right, so let's take a look at the nutritional value for this one. So the Shuru, and I believe this is the one that had a, yes, this is the one that had an interesting story. Apparently it was named after the surrealist art wave from the 1930s in Japan. So for 5 fluid ounces of the Shuru, you're going to have 30 calories, 6 grams of carbs, and 5 grams of sugar. So again, also not going to really impact your waistline too much. So that's another good plus for this. So we've got 2 winners already. That's great. All right, so I mentioned how much I'm a red wine drinker, so I'm really curious about this red here. So this one is called the Red Ember. It's big, bold, and full of character, a perfect partner for steak night or date night. So you can probably guess why I selected this one to taste. All right, let's do the sniff test first. If by the look on my face, you should know that that was not something I enjoyed smelling. I cannot place what that smell is, but it's almost, it's like vinegar. It has a vinaigrette type of aroma. So my expectations are dwindling a little bit now. So I'm giving it a little bit of swirl. I'm actually not sure if that actually does anything since there's no alcohol in it, but it's kind of a habit. All right, cheers. Nope. I do think that you could probably mix this one to make a really nice vinaigrette for a salad, but there is something about this one that it does not, I am not a fan of. I can't, the only thing I can place for this one is the vinegar. So by all means, if you have some for yourself and you like it, please comment and tell us your experience, because this one definitely would be a no for me. So let's see what the nutritional facts are for this one. This is the Red Ember, and that is going to have 35 calories, 8 grams of carbs, and 6 grams of sugar. So again, it is not going to add much to your waistline, so that's great. This one not so great. I would say that so far these two, though, I've been very pleasantly surprised with. This one especially is very nice, and I kind of like this one too. So 2 winners. No, thank you. Now let's move to the other side of the table here. These 3 wines, they are dealcoholized wines. What that means is they started out with the traditional method of becoming wine, going through that whole fermentation process. And that's really important because that's going to lend all of the flavors and aromas and characteristics and complexities that we normally look for in a good wine. The first one that we have here is Loudus. And this one is from South Africa, where they use a multi-step process to basically take the wine apart into pieces and then put the puzzle back together. They put it through a cone centrifuge. There's a link to the technology. It's really fascinating if you're a science geek like me. I'll post it in the comments. But basically, they take all of the aromas and flavors out and set it aside. And then they go to the body of the wine and take out the alcohol. And then they put all of the aromas and flavors back into the dealcoholized wine. So this one, it is a blend of, let me check my spreadsheet here. It's a blend of Shiraz, Pinotage, Tempranillo, and Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, there are 2 of my favorite wines on there, so I am hoping that I am going to love this. So we will find out. Let's do the sniff test first. That smells like wine. I'm getting a lot of black fruit. Not much else. I am noticing that the smell test can sometimes be a little bit different with the wines, but let's see how this one goes down. That is really interesting. I don't know that I would be able to tell that that's not an alcohol wine. Now, it's not quite the profile that I tend to look for. If you like big and juicy and lots of fruit, this has a lot of that. It's big, it's juicy, it's got that kind of plummy type of flavor to it, but it's kind of lacking something in the finish for me. I tend to like wines that have that peppery finish, and I would have expected that with the Shiraz in this and maybe even the Tempranillo. So I am missing that, but I think this is a perfectly acceptable alternative to a regular wine. So cheers. Good job, Loudus. All right, let's move to the next one. This one is 00 from Le Naturel. This is made in Spain, and I believe this one is originally a Grenache wine. It's still a Grenache wine. It's just had the alcohol removed. And they also, I believe, use the same kind of centrifuge type of technology in order to remove the alcohol. All right, let's give this one a good sniff. This one's got a few more characters than the Loudest does. I'm almost trying to say it's almost got like an earthy smell to it. Let's see how it goes. This one's falling a little flat for me. The smell kind of made me think that I was going to get some really complicated flavors, but this one's falling a little flat on my palate. I'm not even really able to pick out very many different notes or anything. You know what? I've had all of these. Why don't I do a palate cleanse? So this is just regular water. All right, let's try this again. I want to give all of you guys a chance. Yeah. Yeah, this one just kind of tastes like grape juice to me. I mean, it's better than just the regular grape juice than you'd give your kids, but I don't know that I would necessarily reach for this one right off the bat. So I'm going to put you back down. All right. So we've got a couple of winners. We got a couple of duds. Let's finish off with this beauty here. You might recognize the packaging. Mianetto is a very popular Prosecco brand. You can get this at most of the grocery stores. And they've just started doing the de-alcoholized wine as well. In fact, this particular one, I believe, just was released right before Christmas. I was shocked when I was at the grocery store and I looked over and it rang out like a beacon with its orange labeling. So this one, I think they do a distilling and maybe also the centrifuge type of process. So let's give this one a try. Now, Prosecco is actually one of my favorite bubblies. I like it better than regular champagne or sparkling wine. It's a little bit less sweet, not so much on the Chardonnay side. So let's see how this one does. All right. That is quite amazing. I would not be able to tell that that was not Prosecco. This one I think has probably done the best job so far of mimicking wine with alcohol in it. Cheers. Wow, that is amazing. This is really good. This is probably one of my favorites of all of them. It might be my favorite. In fact, let's review, and I'm going to go through my favorite and then where you can find these de-alcoholized and wine alternatives. Going back, I'm going to say that I think my absolute favorite is probably this one here. It is so much like Prosecco, I would not be able to tell the difference. My second favorite, and this is surprising me because I am such a red wine drinker, but my top two are actually the ones on the end, the beginning and the end. This one here was also very nice, and even though it wasn't wine, it had a really nice complexity to it. I could see drinking it, at a picnic, in the summer, at a barbecue. It would be with fish. It would be delicious. That's quite nice. And then I'm actually surprised by this. I thought that I would like these more than I would like these, but I think my third place favorite is probably going to be the Shuru here, which is the rosé. And then these these two are kind of maybe running a tie for fourth. This one just wasn't for me. So where can you find any of these that I have tested? These three are from Proxies. If you go to drinkproxy.com, I'll put the link in the comments. You can see their whole list of different wine alternative items. As I mentioned, you do have to buy 6 at a time, which ends up coming to about $20 to $25 per bottle. The loudest I actually found on Walmart's online store, and I just had it shipped to my house. And this one was also less than $20. I think this one was, this one was $26, $25.99. And then Le Naturel 00, I actually bought at a local store. It's the Barber World Market if you're local in Southwest Portland. And this one cost about $17. And then this lovely find I found right up the street at Safeway, and it cost about $20. So all of these wines taken individually are really affordable. They're $20, $25, give or take the shipping and taxes in your area. Otherwise, I think this has been a successful first test for the week. Now, I also promised some homemade recipes. Now, with wine, that can be a little difficult. If you tried to distill the wine yourself and remove the alcohol, you're likely to overcook the alcohol, or you'd have to get very expensive professional equipment in order to do it. It is the dead of winter in January, however, so what better time for grog, hot spiced wine, mulled wine, whatever you want to call it. So now let me show you my mom's recipe for hot spiced wine.
First, add a half a cup of apple juice. Then add a half a cup of orange juice. Add a half a cup of regular sugar. Then stir until all the sugar is dissolved. Add a quarter of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Then add a quarter of a teaspoon of ground allspice. Then add a quarter teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. Stir until all of the spices are well combined. Then add 10 whole cloves. Then add 4 cinnamon sticks and stir together. Slice 1 orange and 1 lemon. Mix again until the spices and fruit are evenly distributed. For a little added flavor, you can also add 3 to 4 star anise. Simmer over low heat for at least 30 minutes. Then add 1 bottle of red wine. Hot spiced wine does contain alcohol even after you simmer it for an hour. This drink would fall under more of a reduced alcohol category rather than non-alcoholic. So if you're trying to stay completely away from alcohol, this beverage might not be for you. Let the wine simmer for at least an hour. The volume should reduce by about half. Even simmering for 2 hours will not remove all the alcohol, only reduce it. So kids and minors should not drink it.
Hopefully you enjoyed this video and the information. And if you found some really good wine alternatives or other non-alcoholic alternatives, please leave a comment and I'll be sure to take a look and see if maybe I could put those in the next week. Next week is Spirit Week, so stay tuned, subscribe, come back in a week, and we're going to be looking at some different non-alcoholic cocktails, mocktails, zero proof cocktails. We're going to do that. We're going to run the gamut there. All right. Thank you all for joining me. Have a great rest of your dry January, and cheers.